They branded her unfit for marriage, until a wealthy cowboy took her hand and calmed her wild heart. She watched the glow of the city lights stretching endlessly, like veins of gold through the dark. Yet, even as the beauty of the view took her breath away, her heart was heavy. For weeks now, whispers followed her through every hallway, every lab, every cafeteria in the colony. Words like unfit, impossible, and rebellious clung to her like shadows, reminders that the society she lived in valued conformity far more than creativity. Alara had never been one to conform. From a young age, she asked questions no one wanted to answer. She dismantled machines to understand them, redesigned outdated systems, and proposed solutions that often seemed too daring for cautious minds. Her curiosity was insatiable, and her ideas were unconventional. In New Eden, however, unconventional was dangerous. Another rejection, she muttered to herself, staring at the holographic display on her desk. The council's decision blinked at her in bold red letters. Proposal denied. Applicant deemed unfit for further projects and unsuitable for societal roles demanding responsibility. Her fingers hovered over the control panel, almost wishing she could erase the words as easily as she could a digital file. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. This wasn't the first time the council had dismissed her, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. She had grown accustomed to their disapproval, though it never hurt any less. Alara turned her gaze back to the city. Humans below moved like tiny, meticulous ants, each following the rules of a society built on structure, obedience, and tradition. In contrast, she felt like an asteroid drifting outside the orbit of their expectations, untethered, wild, and unrestrained. Her mind wandered to her latest project, one that the council had so easily discarded, a proposal to terraform a small rogue asteroid that floated silently between New Eden and the outer colonies. She had calculated trajectories, resource outputs, and even the environmental effects. It wasn't just ambitious, it was feasible. And yet, the council didn't see feasibility. They only saw a young woman who dared to think differently. Alara sighed and rubbed her temples. She could feel the weight of the label they had given her, as if it had been etched into her very being. Unfit for marriage. In New Eden, the phrase carried more than just judgment. It implied social uselessness, a life confined to the shadows of those who followed the rules. She had heard it whispered by neighbors, murmured during social gatherings, and even seen it scribbled in digital forums. It was unfair, it was cruel, but most of all, it was utterly absurd. Yet she refused to let it break her. Alara had learned early that despair was a luxury she could not afford. If the world would not recognize her worth, she would find a place where her ideas could flourish. She returned to her project, skimming through calculations, tweaking trajectories, adjusting resource estimates. The numbers danced across the holographic screen, alive with possibility. Hours passed, and the colony outside darkened into the quiet shimmer of night. The corridors were empty now, and the usual hum of machinery felt softer, as if the entire colony held its breath. Alara's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. A private communication request blinked on her console. She frowned. The council never contacted her privately, they preferred public dismissal. Curiosity sparked, she accepted the call. A holographic figure appeared, projected in pale blue light. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a calm presence that immediately felt different from the usual bureaucrats. "Are you Alara?" the figure asked, his voice steady, almost comforting. "I am," she replied cautiously. "Who is this?" "My name is Rylan Kane," he said, tipping his hat slightly in the style of old frontier tradition. "I've been following your work. I think your ideas are worth more than the council believes." Alara blinked. For a moment, she thought it was a prank. Wealthy entrepreneurs from the outer colonies sometimes made claims of admiration, only to profit from her designs without credit. Yet something in Ryland's demeanor felt genuine, no condescension, No hidden agenda, just interest. "I don't understand," she said slowly. "Why me?" "Why now?" "Because," Ryland said, his eyes steady, "I see potential where others see defiance. I see vision where they see recklessness, and I want to help you bring it to life." Alara felt a strange warmth in her chest. She hadn't experienced kindness like this in years. Most people judged her, ignored her, or tried to suppress her ideas. And now here was a man from the outer colonies, a man with wealth and influence offering her support. It was almost unbelievable. "What do you want from me?" she asked, suspicion still lingering. "Nothing more than your brilliance," he replied. "I have resources, labs, and freedom that New Eden cannot provide. If you are willing, I want to help you build your project, your asteroid plan, without interference from the Council." Alara felt her pulse quicken. For the first time, she imagined a reality where her work could exist, thrive, and be respected. No judgment, no whispers, no dismissive remarks. Just freedom to create, to explore, to be herself. She began, then paused, uncertainty clouding her voice. "I don't know if I can trust anyone after what happened." "Then trust is earned," Ryland said with a small smile. "Not given. But I promise your ideas will always belong to you. You will lead the project. I only provide guidance and resources, nothing more." Alara studied him. She could sense honesty tempered by experience. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, and something inside her, a part she rarely allowed to emerge, told her to take the chance. "All right," she said finally, a small spark of hope igniting in her chest. "I'll do it." "I'll work with you." Ryland's smile widened. "Good, meet me tomorrow at the orbital docking station. We will begin at sunrise." As the hologram vanished, Alara leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. Could this really be her chance? Could she finally escape the shadow of judgment and prove her worth, not just to the colony but to herself? She thought of the asteroid drifting silently in the void, waiting to be shaped, transformed, and brought to life. And for the first time in years, Alara felt excitement instead of despair. She felt possibility. She felt hope. The night stretched on, quiet and full of promise. Alara watched New Eden's lights twinkle below, a city built on rules, on fear of the unknown. And somewhere beyond it, in the vast emptiness of space, there was freedom. There was discovery. There was her chance to show the galaxy and herself that labels like unfit could never define a mind, a heart, or a spirit willing to reach beyond the stars. And somewhere in the silence of the orbital night, a small smile formed on her face. The whispers no longer mattered. She was ready to take her first step toward a future of her own making. The next morning, Alara woke before sunrise, the soft glow of the orbital station lighting her small apartment. She felt a nervous energy buzzing in her chest, the kind that always came before a new adventure. Today, she was going to meet Ryland Kane, the man who had offered her a chance no one in New Eden would give. She dressed quickly, choosing practical clothes that allowed freedom of movement and secured her tools in a small satchel. Though the sun never rose fully in space, the station's artificial lights made the morning feel real. Taking a deep breath, she left her apartment and made her way to the docking bay. The station hummed with life as she arrived. Workers, engineers, and travelers moved about with purpose, unaware of the small drama unfolding within her mind. Alara's heart skipped a beat as she spotted the sleek, silver shuttle waiting at the far end of the bay. Its polished surface reflected the distant stars, and a sense of adventure called to her. A figure leaned casually against the shuttle, hat tipped at a familiar angle, hands resting comfortably on his belt. Ryland Kane. His presence was calm, confident, yet welcoming, a stark contrast to the rigid, judgmental faces she had grown used to in New Eden. "Good morning, Alara," he said with a smile that seemed to ease the tension in her chest. "Ready to leave the council behind?" Alara couldn't help but smile, though nerves made her hands tremble slightly. "I think so," she replied. But I've never been outside the station alone before. What if something goes wrong? Ryland chuckled, the sound warm and unthreatening. Then we fix it together. You're brilliant, and I know this project will succeed. But even the best plans need courage. She nodded, feeling a surge of determination. It was strange, realizing that someone truly believed in her, not out of duty, not out of convenience, but because they recognized her potential. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as she stepped inside. The cabin was cozy but functional, equipped with workstations, tools, and displays showing asteroid trajectories and resources. Ryland gestured for her to sit, and as she did, he began outlining the plan. Our destination is a small asteroid on the edge of this sector, he explained, pointing to a holographic map. It's rich in minerals, and its orbit keeps it safe from larger traffic. If we can establish a basic system for resource extraction and terraforming, we'll have a model to expand across the colonies. Your ideas will guide everything. Alara's eyes widened. The sheer scale of the opportunity was breathtaking. No council, no rules, no social hierarchy to hold her back, just pure possibility. She leaned forward, studying the holographic projections, her mind already racing with ideas. I've calculated several potential trajectories, she said, pointing at the map. If we adjust the rotation slightly and use ion propulsion for small drones, we can maximize energy efficiency and reduce travel time. Also, I've designed modular terraforming drones that can adapt to the asteroid's surface conditions. Ryland's eyes lit up. Exactly the kind of thinking I was hoping for. I don't want to dictate your work, I want to support it. You lead. I provide resources and advice when needed. The hours passed quickly as they discussed trajectories, drone design, and potential challenges. Alara felt alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. The weight of judgment from New Eden had faded, replaced by collaboration and possibility. Finally, Ryland leaned back, stretching his arms. I think we're ready to start setting up the lab on the asteroid. But first you need to understand life out here is different from the station. You'll need to be adaptable, patient, and willing to learn from mistakes. Alara nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. I understand, and I want to learn, Ryland smiled. Good. That's all anyone can ask. As the shuttle approached the asteroid, Alara gazed out the window. The small rock floated silently against the black canvas of space, illuminated by distant starlight. It seemed ordinary at first glance, yet she could see the potential within it. A chance to create something entirely new, a place untouched by rigid rules or judgment. They landed gently on the surface, and the cabin doors opened to reveal the rocky terrain. Alara stepped out carefully, her boots crunching against loose stones. The gravity was lighter than she expected, making movement feel almost playful. This is it, Ryland said, spreading his arms as if presenting a treasure. Your playground, your project. Everything depends on your vision. Alara's heart swelled. The asteroid seemed smaller up close, yet vast in its possibilities. She imagined the drones moving across the surface, reshaping the land, collecting resources, and creating structures that could support life. She felt a thrill at the thought of bringing life to a place no human had touched. They set up the initial lab using Ryland's portable modules. It was simple, efficient, and surprisingly comfortable. As they worked, Ryland shared stories of his life on the outer colonies, the struggles, the challenges, and the rewards of embracing freedom over rules. Alara listened intently, absorbing every detail. She admired his wisdom and experience, and a quiet trust began to grow between them. By the time the first module was fully operational, the asteroid's surface glowed under the soft light of their equipment. Alara felt a sense of pride and wonder she had never experienced before. This was her world now, one where her ideas mattered, where creativity was valued, and where judgment from New Eden held no power. That night, as they prepared for rest in the small habitation unit, Ryland turned to her. Alara, you've already done more today than most engineers manage in months. But remember, this is just the beginning. Tomorrow we'll deploy the first drones. You'll see your plans come to life. Alara smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond excitement. For the first time in years, she didn't feel judged, dismissed, or unworthy. She felt seen. She felt capable. And strangely, she felt a connection with Rylan, a calmness in his presence that soothed the restlessness she had carried for so long. "I can't wait," she said softly. "It feels right, like I belong here." "You do," Rylan replied simply. "Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Your mind, your heart, your courage, they all matter." Alara felt a lump in her throat. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever recognized her worth without conditions. She wanted to say more, to tell him how much his belief meant, but words failed her. Instead, she nodded, letting silence carry the moment. The next morning, as the asteroid's surface bathed in the light of distant stars, Alara prepared to deploy her first modular drones. She had spent countless hours designing and simulating them, but this was the real test. Her hands trembled slightly as she initiated the launch sequence. The drones rose gracefully, their movements precise, almost like dancers. They spread across the asteroid's surface, scanning, analyzing, and beginning the work of transformation. Alara's eyes shone with awe. Her calculations, her creativity, and her persistence were now manifesting before her very eyes. Rylan watched beside her, quiet and proud. "Beautiful," he said simply. "You did this, all of it." Alara felt tears prick her eyes. After years of being labeled unfit, dismissed, and judged, she was finally proving her worth, not just to the world but to herself. Her wild ideas, once ridiculed, were now the foundation of something extraordinary. As the day passed, the drones worked tirelessly under Alara's guidance. She adjusted trajectories, optimized energy use, and fine-tuned their programming. Every success, no matter how small, felt monumental. She realized that human ingenuity, the ability to imagine, create, and adapt, was the greatest tool of all. When the day ended, Alara and Rylan sat together on a rocky outcrop, watching the drones continue their work. The asteroid, once lifeless and ordinary, now hummed with purpose and potential. "You see," Rylan said, "this is what happens when someone believes in you and gives you freedom. Humans are incredible, Alara. We can adapt, we can create, and we can thrive, sometimes in the most unexpected places." Alara nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and wonder. "I never imagined I could do something like this. I never imagined anyone would trust me." "And they do," Rylan replied, tipping his hat in his quiet, calm way. "Sometimes the only person you need to trust is yourself." That night, as Alara drifted into sleep, she felt a sense of peace and excitement she hadn't known in years. The asteroid was just the beginning. The universe was vast, full of possibilities, and for the first time she felt ready to embrace it, all with a mysterious cowboy by her side who had shown her that human spirit, ingenuity, and courage could triumph over judgment and doubt. The next morning, Alara woke to the soft hum of the habitat module. The asteroid's pale surface glimmered outside the windows, catching the faint light of distant stars. Today was the day she would deploy the main terraforming drones, the culmination of months of design, calculation, and dreaming. The weight of responsibility pressed on her chest, but instead of fear, she felt determination. Rylan was already at the control station, reviewing the trajectory charts. He looked up as she entered, tipping his hat in a small, reassuring gesture. "Ready to make the impossible possible?" he asked. Alara smiled, feeling the energy of the morning settle into her. "I think so," she said, "but we have to be careful. Even small errors could disrupt the system completely." "Careful is good," Rylan said, "but don't forget, innovation requires courage." Together, they began the process. Alara oversaw the drone systems, making final checks on navigation, energy efficiency, and adaptive programming. Each drone was modular, designed to adjust to the asteroid's irregular terrain, capable of analyzing mineral content, constructing basic habitats, and even slowly cultivating soil from the asteroid's raw materials. The first drones launched smoothly, moving across the jagged surface like metallic birds. Alara held her breath as the sensors confirmed their stability and efficiency. The initial results were promising. The drones could map the terrain, identify mineral-rich areas, and begin preliminary construction of habitats for future human colonists. "This is incredible," Ryland said, watching the drones move with precision. "You've turned theory into reality." Alara felt a rush of pride, but her mind quickly turned to the next challenge. The asteroid's terrain was uneven, and the drones would need to adapt constantly. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the work could be compromised. She began inputting adjustments, tweaking the drone's AI to respond more intelligently to sudden shifts in surface composition. Hours passed in a blur of calculations, adjustments, and careful observation. The drones moved with increasing efficiency, their artificial intelligence learning and adapting faster than anyone had expected. Alara's excitement grew with each successful operation. She felt alive, completely immersed in her work. As the sun's faint light shifted across the asteroid, Ryland suggested a break. He handed her a small tray of synthetic breakfast packets and a cup of warm coffee. "You're working too hard," he said, a gentle smile on his face. "Even geniuses need to recharge." Alara laughed softly, grateful for the kindness. "I can't help it," she admitted. "Everything is moving so perfectly. I want to make sure it continues." "You're doing amazing," Ryland said, his voice calm but firm. "But remember, perfection comes from balance. Rest is part of the process." She nodded, sipping the coffee. As she looked around, she realized how far she had come. Just days ago, New Eden had branded her unfit, dismissing her ideas and labeling her as socially undesirable. Now here she was, commanding drones on an asteroid, turning dreams into reality and being recognized for her abilities. After a short rest, they returned to work. The next phase involved resource collection and processing. Alara had designed modular mining units that could extract minerals efficiently without damaging the asteroid's structure. Deploying them required precision and careful monitoring. The units worked flawlessly at first, gathering metals and ores while the drones continued mapping and constructing habitats. Alara's mind raced with possibilities. What if they could use the asteroid as a self-sustaining settlement? What if humans could live and thrive here without relying on Earth or New Eden for resources? "Imagine this," Ryland said quietly, noticing her deep concentration. "A place where humans can build freely, think freely, and create without limits. A frontier not bound by rules but guided by imagination." Alara smiled. "That's exactly what I've been hoping for, and maybe it can inspire others too." But the asteroid was not without its challenges. As the drones moved across a particularly jagged ridge, one unit's sensors began sending error signals. Alara's heart skipped a beat as she analyzed the data. A small section of the surface was unexpectedly unstable, threatening to topple the mining unit. "Rylan, I need to adjust the terrain mapping in real time," she said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "If I can redirect the drone, we can stabilize the unit without losing resources." Rylan nodded, stepping back to give her space. "You've got this. I trust your judgment." Alara focused entirely on the problem, adjusting the drone's navigation and recalibrating its sensors. Her hands moved quickly but carefully, balancing logic with intuition. After tense minutes, the error signals ceased. The drone stabilized, continuing its work as if nothing had happened. A wave of relief and pride washed over her. She had solved the problem through intelligence, adaptability, and quick thinking, not through force or luck. For the first time, she fully understood the power of human ingenuity. As the day went on, other challenges appeared, unexpected terrain shifts, minor power fluctuations, and software adjustments. Each time, Alara faced them head-on, learning, adapting, and improving her systems. Rylan watched her with admiration, occasionally offering quiet advice but never taking control. He understood that this project belonged to her, and she responded with brilliance. By evening, the initial phase of construction was complete. Small habitats dotted the asteroid's surface, connected by pathways cleared by the drones. Resource collection units hummed steadily, feeding materials back to the central lab. The asteroid was no longer a barren rock. It was a place of potential, shaped by human intelligence and creativity. Exhausted but elated, Alara stepped outside the habitat to look at the work. The stars glittered above, and the asteroid's surface reflected the soft light of the drones and habitats. It was breathtaking, almost magical. "You've done something extraordinary," Ryland said, joining her. "This isn't just engineering, this is hope." Alara felt a lump in her throat. "Hope for what?" she asked softly. "For humans," Ryland replied. "For anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. For people who dare to dream differently. You've shown that determination, intelligence, and courage can change reality." Alara smiled, her heart full. She had spent so long hiding, doubting herself, and feeling constrained by society's judgment. Now, she realized she could do anything, as long as she trusted her mind and her instincts. The next few days passed in a rhythm of work, observation, and learning. Alara continued refining the drone systems, creating more efficient energy loops and improving adaptability. Rylan assisted where necessary, but mostly he provided encouragement, reminding her to believe in herself. One evening, after a long day of adjustments and programming, they sat together on a rocky ledge, watching the asteroid's surface shimmer under artificial lights. "You know," Ryland said quietly, "this project isn't just about minerals or construction. It's about showing humans what we can do when we believe in ourselves." Alara nodded. "I think I understand that now, and I think I've never felt more alive." Ryland smiled, tipping his hat again in that calm, reassuring way. "Good. That's exactly what I hoped you'd feel, because this is only the beginning. There's a whole universe out there waiting for minds like yours." Alara leaned back, gazing at the stars beyond. The asteroid, once lifeless and ordinary, was now alive with possibility. She thought of New Eden and the council that had judged her so harshly. They couldn't see what she saw, couldn't understand what human determination and intelligence could achieve. And that was fine. She no longer needed their approval. For the first time in years, Alara felt truly free. She had a partner who believed in her, a project that mattered, and the knowledge that human ingenuity could conquer challenges, not with violence but with creativity, patience, and courage. As night settled over the asteroid, Alara realized that this small rock in space was more than just a project. It was a symbol of human potential. And she, once branded Unfit, was the one leading the way. Tomorrow, the next phase would begin, expanding the habitats, increasing drone efficiency, and exploring the asteroid's potential to support human life. But tonight, she allowed herself to rest, knowing that she had already achieved something remarkable. She closed her eyes, the hum of the drones and the soft lights of the habitats surrounding her. For the first time, she felt at home, among the stars, on a small asteroid with a future shaped by her hands and mind. And beside her, quietly, was Rylan Kane, the calm, steady presence who had shown her that human spirit, ingenuity, and courage could create wonders beyond imagination. The impossible, she realized, was only impossible until someone tried, and she had tried. The news arrived on a quiet morning, carried by the soft hum of the station's communications system. Alara was at the control module, reviewing the progress of the terraforming drones, when a series of messages blinked on her console. At first, she ignored them, assuming they were routine updates from New Eden's council. But the messages were different this time, formal, respectful, and tinged with urgency. Curious, she activated the communication link. A holographic display flickered to life, showing several figures she recognized immediately, members of New Eden's council. Their faces were serious, but their eyes held a glimmer of something she hadn't seen before: acknowledgement. "Alara," the lead council member began, "we have been monitoring your project on the asteroid. Your work, it is extraordinary. The Council wishes to formally recognize your achievements and request your guidance on future colonization efforts." Alara blinked, disbelief washing over her. For years, these same people had dismissed her, labeled her unfit, and treated her ideas as foolish. And now they sought her expertise. She felt a strange mix of anger, pride, and amusement. Ryland, standing quietly beside her, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "This is your moment," he said gently. "You don't have to answer them immediately, but remember, you earned this, not their approval." Taking a deep breath, Alara composed herself. "Thank you for recognizing the project," she said carefully. "I appreciate the acknowledgement. However, my work is ongoing here. I am focused on developing sustainable solutions on this asteroid and expanding its potential as a self-sustaining settlement." The council members exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unaccustomed to being addressed so firmly. "We understand," the lead member replied, "but we hope you will consider collaboration with New Eden. Your talents are valuable, and the colony could benefit from your expertise." Alara's mind raced. The offer was tempting, but she had grown in ways that New Eden could not understand. Her freedom, her creativity, and her sense of purpose were all tied to this project and to Ryland's partnership. She could return to the station, be praised, and follow their rules, or she could continue building something new, something that reflected her vision and values. She looked at Ryland, who met her gaze with calm understanding. No pressure, no judgment, just support. She realized then that her decision didn't have to be dictated by others' expectations. She had the power to shape her own future. "I am honored by your recognition," Alara said finally, her voice steady. "But my current path is here, on this asteroid, developing solutions for sustainable human expansion. I believe this approach can inspire others to think differently and embrace innovation beyond traditional boundaries." The council members paused, clearly taken aback. Then slowly they nodded. "We respect your decision," the lead member said. "Your achievements will be recorded and your methods studied. You have shown that humans are capable of extraordinary ingenuity and resilience." Alara ended the call, her heart pounding. She felt a sense of victory, not over the council, but over the doubt and fear that had followed her for so long. She had proven, in the most undeniable way, that human creativity and perseverance could overcome judgment, limitations, and societal expectations. Ryland smiled at her, his calm presence steadying her excitement. "Well done," he said. "You didn't just defend your choices, you showed the world the power of human potential." Alara laughed softly, a mix of relief and joy. "I never thought they'd actually listen." "They did," Ryland said. "But more importantly, you proved it to yourself. That's what matters most." The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Alara expanded the asteroid's habitats, deploying additional modular drones to construct energy-efficient living quarters and refining resource collection methods. She experimented with new energy sources, including solar concentrators and kinetic storage units, allowing the settlement to become increasingly self-sufficient. Ryland supported her at every step, not by directing, but by observing, offering suggestions, and providing resources. His presence was steady and encouraging, a reminder that innovation thrived in collaboration, trust, and freedom rather than control. As the asteroid began to take shape, a small community of pioneers emerged, humans from various colonies, all drawn by Ilara's vision and reputation. They arrived with diverse skills: engineers, biologists, programmers, and educators, each contributing their talents to the growing settlement. The asteroid became a hub of creativity, experimentation, and shared purpose, far from the rigid rules of New Eden. Ilara found herself at the center of this burgeoning community, not as a ruler but as a guide and mentor. She encouraged innovation, celebrated bold ideas, and nurtured collaboration. Every success, no matter how small, reinforced the belief that humans were capable of extraordinary achievements when given freedom and trust. One evening, after a long day of deploying new energy modules and refining drone operations, Ilara and Rylan stood on a rocky outcrop overlooking the settlement. Lights glimmered across the surface, reflecting the progress they had made together. "It's beautiful," Ilara said softly, her voice filled with awe. "I never imagined it could look like this, alive, thriving." "It's your vision," Rylan replied. "You've taken an ordinary rock and turned it into a symbol of possibility. Humans, when trusted and encouraged, can do remarkable things." Ilara felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had transformed not just an asteroid but her own life. She had moved from being labeled unfit to becoming a leader, an innovator, and a symbol of human potential. The judgment of New Eden no longer held power over her. As the community grew, so did their understanding of sustainability, cooperation, and resilience. Ilara introduced educational programs, allowing new settlers to learn about drone operation, resource management, and environmental adaptation. She encouraged experiments, trials, and learning from mistakes. The asteroid became a living classroom, a place where human curiosity and intelligence flourished. One day, a group of young engineers approached her, eyes wide with excitement. "Ilara," one of them said, "we want to try designing new drones that can assist with food cultivation." "Can we work with you?" Ilara smiled, feeling a spark of joy. "Absolutely. Let's see what we can create together." The young engineers began working under her guidance, developing new drone prototypes, testing energy-efficient designs, and improving the settlement's infrastructure. Ilara watched them, pride swelling in her chest. This was the true measure of human potential, not accolades or recognition, but the ability to inspire others to dream, create, and achieve. Rylan joined her later, quietly observing the activity. "You've created more than a settlement," he said. "You've created hope, purpose, and opportunity. People here are learning to think for themselves, to take risks, and to innovate. That's rare in the universe." Ilara nodded, feeling the truth in his words. The asteroid had become more than a project. It was a testament to what humans could achieve when freed from fear, judgment, and rigid expectations. As the sun, or rather the distant star illuminating the asteroid, cast long shadows across the rocky surface, Ilara reflected on her journey. She remembered the whispers of New Eden, the labels, the rejection, and the doubt. And now she stood in a place she had built with her own hands, a thriving community of pioneers, drones, and hope. "I couldn't have done this alone," she said quietly, turning to Rylan. "Your support, it made a difference, not just for the project but for me." Rylan tipped his hat, his calm smile reassuring. "You would have done it anyway. You have the mind, the courage, and the heart. I just reminded you of what you already knew." Ilara laughed softly, feeling a lightness she hadn't known in years. She had been branded unfit, dismissed, and undervalued. Now she was the architect of possibility, a symbol of what humans could achieve when creativity, courage, and determination were allowed to flourish. The night deepened and the asteroid settled into quiet activity, drones humming gently as they continued their work. Ilara stood with Rylan, looking out over the lights of the settlement. "This," she whispered, "is only the beginning. There's so much more we can do. So many people to help, so much knowledge to explore." "And we will," Rylan said, tipping his hat once more. "One step at a time, together." Alara smiled, feeling the truth of his words. The judgment of society had no power here. She had created a place where humans could thrive, innovate, and grow. She had transformed herself and the lives of those around her. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly free, ready to shape not just a settlement, but a future guided by human ingenuity, courage, and hope. The asteroid was no longer just a rock in space. It was a beacon of possibility, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. And Alara, once branded unfit, was at the heart of it, leading with vision, wisdom, and an unshakable belief in the potential of humanity. The asteroid glimmered under the soft light of distant stars, a small outpost of human ingenuity floating silently in the vast expanse of space. Alara stood on a rocky ledge, watching the drones hum across the surface, carrying materials, mapping terrain, and constructing new habitats. The settlement had grown beyond her expectations. Clusters of modular buildings, gardens, and energy collectors sprawled across the asteroid like a living organism. Beside her, Rylan Kane adjusted a solar concentrator, his hat casting a familiar shadow over his calm face. "It's incredible," he said, surveying the work. "All of this, it started with your ideas, Alara. Your mind, your courage, it's inspiring everyone here." Alara smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond pride. "It's amazing what humans can do when they're allowed to think freely," she said. "I never imagined I'd be here, leading this small corner of the universe." "Neither did I," Rylan admitted. "But you were always meant for this. You just needed the freedom to realize it." Alara's gaze drifted across the settlement. Humans moved purposefully between habitats, carrying supplies, testing drone prototypes, and experimenting with sustainable energy systems. Children played in low gravity, laughing as they floated slightly off the ground, a reminder that life could adapt and thrive even in the harshest environments. This asteroid was no longer barren. It was alive with potential, discovery, and human spirit. For weeks, Alara and Rylan had worked tirelessly to expand the settlement, improving infrastructure, refining drones, and cultivating small gardens to support self-sufficiency. She had introduced educational programs, encouraging newcomers to innovate and experiment. Every success was shared, every problem solved through collaboration. The settlement became a model of what humans could achieve when curiosity, ingenuity, and freedom were encouraged rather than suppressed. One morning, as the artificial light shifted across the asteroid's surface, a new message arrived via the communication system. It was from Earth, an official initiative seeking to recruit innovators for a galactic exploration project. The message praised Alara's work and invited her to join a team that would help humans expand into distant star systems. Alara read the message carefully, her mind racing. The opportunity was monumental, a chance to leave her mark on the galaxy itself. Yet she hesitated. This settlement, this community she had nurtured, was her creation. The drones, the habitats, the people, they were all part of something she had built with care, vision, and determination. Leaving now would mean abandoning them. Rylan watched her quietly. "It's an important decision," he said softly. "You can shape the future on a scale even larger than this asteroid, or continue building something extraordinary here. There's no wrong choice, only what you value most." Alara took a deep breath, considering his words. She thought of New Eden, the place that had labeled her unfit, the council that had dismissed her ideas, and the whispers that had followed her like shadows. She realized something vital. Recognition and opportunity meant little without freedom, creativity, and purpose. Here on this asteroid, she had all three. "I can't leave," she said finally, her voice firm. "Not yet. This settlement, it's not just my work. It's proof that humans can thrive outside the boundaries others impose. If I leave now, it won't grow the way it should. I need to stay to help it flourish." Rylan nodded, his expression warm and approving. "Then stay," he said simply, "and we'll continue shaping it together." With her decision made, Alara returned to the control module, reviewing the work of the drones and the growth of the settlement. Each day brought new challenges, but also new triumphs. She refined the drones' programming, improving efficiency and adaptability. New settlers arrived with fresh ideas, eager to contribute, and Alara guided them, sharing her knowledge and encouraging independent thought. The community thrived, and word of the asteroid spread across the outer colonies. Humans began to travel from distant settlements, inspired by the success of a place built on ingenuity, collaboration, and freedom. Alara's settlement became a beacon, a proof that humanity could achieve remarkable things without rigid rules, fear, or judgment. One afternoon, as Alara and Rylan walked along a ridge overlooking the settlement, she reflected on how far she had come. She remembered the whispers of New Eden, the label Unfit, the dismissals and rejections. And now here she was, leading a thriving community, pioneering sustainable space colonization, and proving that human ingenuity and spirit could triumph over doubt and limitation. "Do you ever think about New Eden?" Rylan asked, breaking her thoughts. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But it feels distant now, like a place I once knew but no longer belonged to. I've found my purpose, my place, and my people here. That's what matters." Rylan nodded. "Exactly. Humans are incredible when they're allowed to grow, explore, and create. You've shown that, Alara. And you've inspired everyone around you to do the same." Alara smiled, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The asteroid was more than a settlement. It was a living testament to the strength of the human spirit, creativity, and perseverance. Every structure, every drone, every person who had joined her represented the triumph of human potential over fear and limitation. That evening, as the settlement quieted under the soft glow of artificial lights, Alara and Rylan watched the drones continue their work. The rhythmic hum of machines, the soft conversations of settlers, and the gentle laughter of children created a harmony that filled the asteroid with life. "I never imagined this," Alara said softly. "A place where humans can thrive, think, and create without limits. A place that belongs to anyone brave enough to dream." "It's just the beginning," Rylan replied. "There's so much more ahead. We can explore new asteroids, test new ideas, and inspire countless others. Human potential is limitless." Alara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. The future was vast, filled with possibility. She had been branded unfit, dismissed, and underestimated, but she had transformed that judgment into something extraordinary. She had discovered that human ingenuity, courage, and determination could overcome any obstacle. The days turned into weeks, and the settlement continued to grow. Gardens expanded, habitats multiplied, and new drone prototypes were tested and improved. The settlers, inspired by Alara's guidance, began proposing innovative solutions for energy, resource management, and life support. Each idea was tested, refined, and implemented, creating a cycle of creativity that propelled the community forward. One morning, a young engineer approached Alara with a new concept. "What if we create a network of drones to map nearby asteroids and identify potential colonies?" he asked, eyes bright with excitement. Alara's heart leapt. This was exactly the kind of innovation she had hoped to inspire. "Let's do it," she said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "We can expand our knowledge, test new technologies, and create more opportunities for human settlement." Rylan smiled, observing the interaction. "This is what it means to lead," he said softly. "Not by commanding, but by inspiring, guiding, and trusting others to think for themselves." Alara felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had been given freedom, encouragement, and trust, and now she was passing that on to others. The settlement was no longer just her achievement. It belonged to everyone who lived, worked, and dreamed there. As night fell over the asteroid, Alara and Rylan stood together on the highest ridge, gazing at the stars beyond. The drones moved across the surface below, lights twinkling like miniature constellations. The settlers worked, laughed, and dreamed, building a future that honored human potential and ingenuity. "This," Alara whispered, "is everything I hoped for and more." Ryland tipped his hat, his calm smile reflecting the quiet triumph they shared. "And it's only the beginning. Humanity will reach farther, dream bigger, and achieve more, because people like you remind us what we're capable of." Alara smiled, feeling a sense of completeness. She had been labeled unfit, judged unfairly, and dismissed, but she had transformed those challenges into opportunity. She had built a thriving settlement, inspired countless minds, and proven that human courage, creativity, and perseverance could triumph over any obstacle. As she looked out across the asteroid, watching drones hum, settlers work, and gardens flourish, she realized the truth. Labels, doubts, and societal judgment were powerless against a mind determined to explore, create, and believe. The asteroid was no longer a barren rock. It was a beacon of possibility. And Alara, once branded unfit, had become a pioneer, a leader, and a symbol of the boundless potential of the human spirit. Together, she and Rylan watched the lights of the settlement glow under the stars, knowing that humans could thrive anywhere, as long as courage, creativity, and hope guided their way. And in that quiet, shining moment, Alara understood that the universe was vast, full of possibilities, and waiting for humans to reach farther, dream bigger, and achieve the extraordinary. The girl once called unfit had become the architect of a new frontier, proving to herself and the galaxy that the human spirit could never be contained, and that together, humans could truly flourish among the stars.